I just want to show you guys where I get my information from, so you know that I'm not just making this stuff up. You know, I'm not just making this up. This is what I do. Talking to Mauricio Bay. Yeah. This is my library right here. That's where I get all my stuff from. I got some more books down there. Yep. Okay. Go to my office over here. Some more books here. There's some documentation and stuff I keep. There's my desk over here. It's my desk. Here's my, it's my stamps. Make sure I all reserve my rights when I go do business, It's real. There's some more stuff down here. Keep these books. I gotta keep up the history. Yep. Take it over here. My encyclopedias. Some more law books as well. Some more books right here. Encyclopedias more. As well. Right here. See? So now that you see my workplace here, now we can get down to business. Now we can get down to business, all right? Today we're gonna deal with minority. Let's look into what minority is. So I'm gonna go into here. I'm gonna go into this book right here. It's Encyclopedia Britannica Micropedia Ready Reference. Okay. Encyclopedia Britannica, okay, 1974 vintage. Okay, so let's get into this. Okay, we're gonna get into the word minority. Let's get into this. Minority. a culturally, ethnically, or rather racially distinct group living within a larger society. When used to describe such a group, the term carries with a web of political and social implications. A brief treatment of minorities follows. For full treatment, see Micropedia Social Differentiation, which I have. We'll get into that in another video. As the term is used by politicians and social scientists, a minority is necessarily subordinate to the dominant group within a society. This subordinacy rather than a numerical minority. So it has nothing to do with numbers. So that's a clarification. It has nothing to do with numbers. It's more black than white and it's more this. It's telling you it has nothing to do with that. Okay? It says is the chief defining characteristic of a minority group. In certain cases, as in South Africa, where the Bantu population is considered a minority by dint of dominance of the nation's whites, the minority group may be several times the size of the dominating group. I'll read that again. The minority group may be several times the size of the dominating group. Once again, that's a clarification. So minority, majority has nothing to do with numbers. It could be 2 people and 10 people, and the 2 people could be the majority. In sociological parlance, a minority must be a distinct group. As such, it has specific rules of membership, a prescribed guidelines of cultural behavior that distinguish it from the majority. So it has rules and regulations and guidelines for such people. Okay, well, let's see what people they talking about. It must have specific, easily recognizable characteristics that mark it off from the rest of society. In their separation from the dominant forces of society, members of a minority group usually are cut off both from the full involvement in the workings of the society and from an equal share in the society's rewards. So minorities basically don't get shit. They're not involved. They're not part of anything. Okay. A minority group is typically poorer and politically less powerful than the dominant group. Although certain exceptions exist, the lack of significant distinguishing characteristics keep certain groups from being classified as minorities. In modern America society, religion seldom defines a minority. The society as a whole is too secularized for the difference in religion practice to be felt that keenly. So basically, most minority groups, let's just say like black people, you got Muslim black people, Christian black people, Catholic black people, you got all these different religions in such one so-called ethnic group, right? And then when you go to Pakistan, the majority of those people are Muslim. You go to Asia, majority of those people are Buddhist, or you go to India, and most of those people are Hindu. See what I'm saying? So it shows. You look in a black society, they don't know spiritual belief is alike, and when it comes to the so-called minority society, that's what it tells you here. Similarly, Freemasons, though they subscribe to be felt different from those of the most Western people, lack a clear identifying features that would distinguish them, and they cannot be considered a coherent minority because they're not claiming to be a racially or ethnic group. They're claiming to be a club, something like that. So they telling you they can't be looked at like that. A group assembled for primarily economic reasons is seldom considered a minority unless its activity is linked with unifying principles of kinship, race, or culture. The role of minority groups varies from society to society. Wow. I'm gonna read it again. The minority role groups, no, I'm sorry. The role of minority groups varies from society to society, depending on the structure of the social system and the relative power of the minority group. In general, the society as a whole has two options when confronted with the presence of a minority group. Wow. So they have options when when minority groups approach them or come within their vicinity or their businesses. They have options how to deal with you. So it says, in general, the society as a whole has two options when confronted with the presence of a minority group. The minority can be either eliminated or tolerated. Wow. Maybe we need to think about that, really. A minority group can be eliminated through one of the several methods. It can be ejected or suppressed. Sounds familiar? In the 17th century, the dominant Roman Catholic forbade the practice of Protestantism. In France, Protestants had the choice of changing religions, practicing Protestantism in secret, or leaving the country. Protestantism as a structure was thus effectively eradicated. An extreme example of the suppression of minorities is the Nazi extermination of several million Jews. A less violent means of minority elimination is assimilation. So that's the less violent way. Instead of just killing you, it's a process called assimilation. Maybe you need to look that up. In this process, the minority assumes the cultural attributes of the dominant majority. See? So in other words, process of elimination, which this process is called assimilation, they're eliminating you because you're following their culture, their way of eating, their way of thinking, their ideology, the way they dress, the way they wear their hair. You're leaving your own culture to be them, like them. You being like them. You basically running around living like a European, even though you call yourself black or whatever you call yourself. In the 19th and early 20th centuries, the United States saw an influx of European immigrants. Rather than allow them to maintain their original cultural characteristics, the dominant English-speaking Protestant majority indoctrinated the immigrants in the prevailing culture. The immigrants group adopted the dominant language and ideology. As a result, they did not establish autonomous social groups, but rather became assimilated into American society. So now you have a sense of what assimilation means. Like, okay? Now, and look up the word autonomous. Very important. Assimilation is seldom a process of pure elimination. In the course of assimilation, the dominant group usually acquires aspects of the minority culture while imposing its own. So basically, they'll accept certain things that you do. that the minority group do, but they're going to run it. They're going to make sure they have control of it. They're not going to let you do anything without them making a benefit, like hip hop industry, music, movies, all of that. Any black person that makes money has to go through the majority group to get it. They got to eat first, taxes. So it says, dominant group usually acquires aspects of the minority culture while imposing its own culture. A society that makes a practice of assimilation usually involves in the process, and the dominant culture becomes increasingly eclectic. When a minority group is allowed to exist, let me read that again. When a minority group is allowed to exist within the context of a larger society, the resulting social system is called pluralistic. The dominant forces in the pluralistic society opt to tolerate minorities for one of the two reasons. The dominant majority may see no reason to rid themselves of the minority. On the other hand, even if the minority is disliked, there may be no political, ideological, or moral impediment to a process of elimination. The commercial trade of certain European countries in the 12th and 13th centuries depended on the Jewish merchants. This made it impossible, or at least suicidal, for the anti-Semitic rulers to drive the Jews out. Another example of toleration coerced from the unwilling dominant group can be seen in Britain in the 20 years following 1950, which saw the influx of the immigrant from the Caribbean, Pakistan, and India. Many British did not like these new minority groups, but the nation's prevailing democratic ideology. Democratic. Ain't we in a democracy? Okay. Democratic ideology preventing any move to eject them. The structure of the society as a whole affects the role that the minority group play in it. By definition, minority groups are ranked somewhere below rung of the social hierarchy. Below. So basically, you ain't have no minority don't have no ranking in society. You're below zero. This is why they can shoot you and nobody goes to jail. The degree of social mobility of a member of a minority group. Now you're members. See why they keep telling you you're a member of something. Did anybody get a black card that says that African American group membership? I'm just saying. Anyway, the degree of a social mobility of a member of the minority group depends on whether the society in which he lives is closed or open. A closed society is one in which an individual role and function can theoretically never be changed. The traditional Hindu caste system. An open society, on the other hand, allows the individual to change his role with corresponding changes in status. Now, why would they say that? Sounds like status. Sounds like, proclaiming nationality, because that's what that deals with. Changing your status or correcting your status. Let me correct myself. But I'll read that again for you. It says, an open society, on the other hand, allows the individual to change his role with the corresponding changes in status. Unlike a closed society, which stresses hierarchical cooperation between the social groups. An open society permits different social groups to vie for the same resources so that their relations are competitive. In an open society, the ranking of an individual according to his social group has less weight than the rank that the individual attains for himself. Such a situation can be seen in the United States, an open society. So the United States is an open society. Now let's see what they're saying. That allows the individual social mobility. Sociologists have suggested that part of the difficulty encountered by Black people in being absorbed into American society has arisen because, unlike other groups, they are uniquely regarded as an autonomous social group. Autonomous. If you look up the word autonomous, it means to have the option to govern themselves. Having the option to. So in other words, they're saying that the problem with Black people is that they have the option to govern themselves, but they choose to not govern themselves. They choose to stay Negro, Black, and colors. They don't want to correct their status. This is what this is telling you. This is what this book is telling you, not me. But I'm going to continue on. It says, unlike other groups, they are uniquely regarded as autonomous social group. This stereotype view a holdover from nations. It's a holdover from nations, saying that basically you're not part of no nation. You're